Hi, I'm Chris Sullivan. I am the Director of Communications here at the Institute for Family Studies. And I'm going to be giving you a roundup of what has been happening on family studies this week. First off, we had a huge piece covered in the Wall Street Journal, the sex recession, the share of Americans having regular sex keeps dropping. And then we were featured in The Atlantic with an article by Jean Twenge, The Marriage Effect. So I'm joined by Grant Bailey, our research fellow, who provided this research for us. So Grant, what is happening in America around the sex recession?
Yeah, well, Chris, just to run through some of our numbers, we've been seeing a massive decline in the frequency of sex that adults are having. And this has been going on for some time. So in 1990, 55% of adults between 18 and 64 reported having sex weekly. And that's since fallen to 37%. So this has been a sort of well documented over the years. What's pretty remarkable is just the lows that we keep finding in 2024. It's the lowest year on record.
What data are you using?
So we're using the General Social Survey. It's a survey conducted every 2 years. A few thousand Americans are asked a series of questions ranging from their political views, their marital status, and then some of them are asked how much sex they're having.
And so some of it's quite surprising because it seems to be affecting young people more than other people. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Young people are definitely contributing the most to the decline in sexual frequency. Um, that's largely driven by two things. One, we see in the recent years, well, really going back a few decades, we've seen a massive decline in the share of young people who are married. People are getting married later, and they're foregoing marriage entirely. And even in recent years, we've seen less and less people on aggregate, when you consider cohabitation and marriage, we see less people living together. So living together is, of course, not surprising, the highest predictor of sexual frequency. And so that's been the largest contributor to the sex recession.
Then the very shocking finding that I thought was that contrary to what you would expect, was those who are having the most sex. What were your findings there?
Yeah, so we found that married adults, and it's unsurprising, but married adults have the most sex. They live with their partner, and that's the biggest predictor. Uh, but we've
Yeah, well,
seen that
you say it's unsurprising, but I mean, the sort of Sex in the City and popular culture idea is that those people who get married, that is like the end of their sex life. But you're saying that the data shows something completely opposite to that.
I guess it's not surprising to me, but you're right that it does run contrary to the popular narrative. It's a sort of myth that married people have the least amount of sex, when really it's singles who have the least amount of sex. Um,
Were there any other things that surprised you or might surprise our readers?
well, in tandem with this research, trying to understand the massive declines in sexual frequency among young adults, we found that there's been you know, we hear this around COVID and following COVID, that young people have been spending much less time with friends. The numbers are dramatic, Chris. So just prior to COVID, in around 2018, on average, young adults spent about 9.5 hours per week with friends, and now it's just 5.1. And it's just been falling dramatically. So we think that this is contributing both to a decline in singles having sex, but also the decline in marriage. People are just not having the opportunity to meet a spouse.
Yeah, so I don't suppose you can, the surveys would say this, but what is your conclusion? Is the idea that smartphones have been a significant part of what's going on?
Well, yeah, there's been a lot of research in just young adults and even older adults spending more and more time on their phones and less time in person socializing with other people. But we also have a sort of theory that there's a decline in married sex because of this this phenomenon called bedtime procrastination, where adults will spend hours and hours on Netflix or their phone or any other sort of media as they sort of approach bedtime. And so they stay up much later and they spend less time with their significant other, which we think leads to a decline in intimacy.
Yeah, and some of that data you captured in this article, is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
We were sort
fantastic.
of, yeah.
That's great. Well, we'll make sure that people get to read that article. It's been trending massively on family studies this week. So thanks, Grant. That's great to hear.
Yeah, thank you, Chris.
And Jean Twenge wrote in The Atlantic this week, also countering popular myths that those women who get married or become mums are the most miserable in America today. In her piece, she counters that with stats that were put out by the Institute for Family Studies just only last week. To sign up for our emails to get a weekly digest, click on the link below.